In the last hour, The Guardian has reported a second draft text of the COP28 climate deal calls for the first time for nations to transition away from fossil fuels.
It's seen as a positive step by environmentalists because up until now, oil-rich nations were refusing to agree to phase them out.
But back here in New Zealand, the government is doubling down on scrapping targets, with the new Resources Minister Shane Jones calling climate concerns hysteria. Political reporter Lloyd Burr has been following developments throughout the day.
Drifting off as delays dominate in Dubai.
Well, I'm extremely concerned. The text that we have is not where it needs to be.
The text in a tug of war between nations. Oil-rich Saudi Arabia not happy with wording around phasing out fossil fuels.
Are you scuppering the climate deal?
China refusing to comment too. And as for the Brits, its minister has packed up and flown home. But at home in New Zealand, the new government has some new language.
Hysteria surrounding climate change.
The hysteria around climate change, what do you mean by that?
Well, we need to ensure, in the context of security and risk management with our energy system, that we don't abandon gas and, if necessary, coal.
But that's exactly what's being discussed at COP, and it's in the Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement says by 2030 we'll reduce our greenhouse gas emissions to 50% below gross 2005 levels, and by 2050 achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions. To do that, there was this aspirational goal of 100% renewable electricity by 2035, which last year was brought forward to 2030.
That's not a target that we support.
But what are they going to do instead? The time is over for them saying just what they're not going to do.
There's more on that list: the clean car discount and the New Zealand battery storage scheme known as Lake Onslow. They're mentioned in the NDC, both scrapped by the new government. There's the carbon neutral government program to decarbonise the public sector, and the government investment in decarbonising industry fund, which funds the private sector to decarbonise, which both have a question mark hanging over them. How are you going to get there if you're chucking all your climate policies on the bonfire?
Well, we're not. We've got a number of policies which are going to do that, and the emissions trading scheme is going to play a significant role.
I think we're balancing climate change shrillness and hysteria with rational economic decision making.
Green MP Chloe Swarbrick doesn't think so, with this extraordinary interjection to the Prime Minister during question time.
We're not weakening our actions on climate change, we're just going about it a different way.
Tensions high in Parliament, just as they are in Dubai.
Indeed. Well, OK, Lloyd, tell us more about this new draft of the COP28 agreement.
Yeah, well, leaders and negotiators, they've been at loggerheads over specific wording. Rejected drafts have either been too soft or they've been too hard. There have been some nations that wanted the term phased out or phased down fossil fuels in this agreement. And over the last 36 hours, they've essentially been at an impasse over the wording. But around 50 minutes ago, a second draft came out, and it has the term, the phrase, transition away from fossil fuels. Here's the full quote: transition away from fossil fuels in energy systems in a just, orderly and equitable manner, accelerating action in this critical decade so as to achieve net zero by 2050 in keeping with the science. So a lot of jargon in that sentence there. It's going to be interesting to see what Shane Jones thinks about it, what this government thinks about it. What happens now? The 200 countries that are at COP28, they're going to debate it. They could vote for it. They could vote against it and vote it down as these talks near the 2-week mark.
OK, Lloyd, thank you for the update.